The 5 Principles of Peaceful Coexistence, known in India as the Panchsheel Treaty, are a series of principles which formed the bedrock of the relationship between India and the People's Republic of China. Their first formal codification in treaty form was in an agreement between China and India in 1954. They were enunciated in the preamble to the Agreement on Trade and Intercourse between Tibet region of China and India, which was signed at Peking on 29 April 1954. This agreement stated the 5 principles as mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality and cooperation for mutual benefit, peaceful coexistence. An underlying assumption of the 5 principles was that newly independent states after decolonization would be able to develop a new and more principled approach to international relations. The principles were emphasized by the Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, in a broadcast speech made at the time of the Asian Prime Ministers' Conference at Colombo just a few days after the signing of the Sino-Indian Treaty. In Beijing, Nehru went so far as to say, if these principles were recognized in the mutual relations of all countries, then indeed there would hardly be any conflict and certainly no war. The 5 principles were subsequently incorporated in modified form in a Statement of 10 Principles issued in April 1955 at the historic Asian-African Conference in Bandung, Indonesia, which did more than any other meeting to form the idea that post-colonial states had something special to offer the world. It has been suggested that the 5 principles had partly originated as the 5 principles of the Indonesian state. In June 1945, Sukarno, the Indonesian nationalist leader, had proclaimed 5 general principles, or Pancasila, on which future institutions were to be founded. Indonesia became independent in 1949. The 5 principles as they had been adopted in Colombo and elsewhere formed the basis of the non-aligned movement, established in Belgrade in 1961. The history of the first major enunciation of the 5 principles is not wholly encouraging. China has often emphasized its close association with the 5 principles. It had put them forward as the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence at the start of negotiations that took place in Delhi from December 1953 to April 1954 between the delegation of the PRC government and the delegation of the Indian government on the relations between the two countries with respect to the disputed territories of Aksai Chin and what China calls South Tibet and India, Arunachal Pradesh. The 29th of April 1954 agreement mentioned above was set to last for 8 years. When it lapsed, relations were already souring. The provision for renewal of the agreement was not taken up, and the Sino-Indian War broke out between the two sides. However, in the 1970s, the 5 principles again came to be seen as important in Sino-Indian relations, and more generally as norms of relations between states. They have become widely recognized and accepted throughout the region.